Okay, so if you're building anything with Node.js, you're going to hit errors. It's just inevitable with that.
Absolutely. It happens to everyone. And when that error message hits the console, yeah, it can be frustrating.
But the interesting thing is, not all errors mean the same thing. It feels like knowing the type of error is, I don't know, like getting a map for debugging.
That's a great way to put it. Instead of just stumbling around, you get a clue about where to look. It really changes how you approach fixing things.
Yeah, whether you're just starting out or building something really complex. So where do we start breaking down these different error types?
Well, I think the most fundamental place to begin is with standard JavaScript errors. These are the ones baked into the language itself.
Right, the ones that can happen even before Node.js really gets involved, or just when your basic JS code runs.
Exactly. You've got errors that stop things before they even run, like syntax errors.
Like typos, missing brackets, that kind of thing.
Precisely. The code literally can't be understood or parsed. It won't even start. Then you have the ones that happen while the code is running, runtime errors.
Okay, runtime errors. What falls into that category? I feel like I see those more often.
Oh, definitely. A really common one is reference error.
Ah, when you try to use a variable that doesn't exist.
Exactly that. It hasn't been declared, or maybe it's out of scope. The JavaScript engine just says, I don't know what you're talking about.
Right, the classic variable name is not defined. Seen that one plenty.
Then there's type error. This happens when you try to do something with a value that just doesn't make sense for its type.
Like trying to call a number as if it were a function.
Yeah, or the one we've all hit,
Sure.
trying to access a property on null or undefined.
Ugh, yes. Cannot read property, whatever, of null. Brings back memories.
Doesn't it? There's also range error, though maybe less common in everyday Node stuff unless you're dealing with specific APIs or array manipulations.
That's when a number is just out of bounds for what's expected.
Pretty much, like using an index that's way too large for an array, or passing an invalid value to certain functions that expect a number in a specific range.
Okay, so those are errors rooted in the JavaScript language itself, but Node does a lot with the system, like files and networks.
Right. And that brings us to system errors. These usually pop up when Node.js is interacting with the underlying operating system. Think file I/O, network stuff.
And these are different because
The key thing is they often come with specific error codes, standardized codes that tell you exactly what went wrong at the system level.
codes, like actual codes, not just messages.
Yep. For instance, ent. See that, Node tried to access a file or directory path that doesn't exist. Ent, error no entry.
Okay, so enoent means check the file path immediately.
Exactly. Or another common one is econ refused. That means you tried to make a network connection and the server on the other end actively refused it.
Connection refused. Got it. That's really helpful. Knowing the code points you towards an environment issue, not necessarily a logic bug in my code.
Precisely. A type error likely means your logic is flawed. An enoent, or econ refused, points to external factors, file paths, network availability, permissions maybe.
Makes sense. What about errors that aren't standard JS or system things, but are specific to my application's rules?
Good question. Those are generally called application-specific errors, or sometimes user-defined errors. You create and throw these yourself.
So if my app needs, say, a valid user ID and it gets something else, I decide that's an error condition.
Exactly. The JavaScript is valid, the system calls might be fine, but your application's internal logic says, nope, this state is wrong. Maybe you throw an invalid impute error or a business rule violation.
Okay, so these reflect the unique failure points of my specific program's logic and requirements.
Right. They're custom to your domain.
And there's one more type, assertion errors. I usually see those in tests.
Yes, assertion errors. Typically from Node's built-in assert module or testing libraries. An assertion is basically you saying, I expect this condition to be true right now.
And if it's not true?
Bang! You get an assertion error. It's a signal, usually during development or testing, that one of your core assumptions about how your code behaves is incorrect. It points directly to a potential bug.
So it's like a sanity check built into the code or test.
Exactly. A way to verify your program's state and logic automatically.
Wow. Okay. So just recapping, standard JS errors for the language itself, system errors for OS interactions with those helpful codes, application errors for my own logic, and assertion errors for development checks. Just having that mental framework feels like it speeds up debugging already.
It absolutely does. Knowing the category helps you immediately narrow down the possibilities. Is it syntax? Is it my logic? Is it the environment? Is it a failed assumption in a test?
It definitely helps focus the investigation. So Thinking beyond just fixing bugs faster, how does understanding these error types help us write better code from the start?
Well, that's the interesting part, isn't it? Consider how you structure your error handling. Knowing these types helps you anticipate potential failures. You can design your code to catch specific types of errors and respond appropriately, maybe retrying a network request for an econ refused, or giving clear feedback for an application-specific error. It pushes you towards writing more resilient, predictable software.